Hello and welcome to my first impressions of the Skull and Bones open beta, which was available on the weekend of February 10th and 11th, at least here in North America. I didn't really get that much playtime. I think I did just over an hour altogether. I wasn't able to keep playing because the beta did stop. I think it was 6 p.m. or 9 p.m., but either way, most of my gaming is in the evenings, as I am pretty busy during the day. So I got an hour in on Sunday, and then by the time I got back to it, the beta was over and I wasn't able to play anymore. But I mean, in terms of what I was looking for from this game, I did get a lot of answers. I was just very curious about the gameplay and the quality of the graphics and just how everything works. And I can say that it's pretty much what I expected, better in some ways and worse in others. The graphical fidelity itself definitely impressed me. It did look very pretty. I mean, some of this capture probably doesn't do it justice because, let's face it, the PlayStation doesn't do the best capture. It does a good job, but anything shimmery is going to be very difficult for most capture devices to find. So this water effect, it might not look as good as it does when you're actually playing it. And I play everything on performance mode, and the frame rate, I didn't notice any dips. When you first get put into the game, it feels just like Assassin's Creed Black Flag, but prettier. Like, what you think Black Flag looks like is what this game looks like, and then if you go back to Black Flag, that's not what this game looks like. This is much nicer textures, better frame rate. Just everything works better. The controls, I think, are about the same. I don't remember 100%. But the tapping and holding X to get your sails up, that just reminded me of Black Flag, and then slowing down and all that stuff. So they did a really good job with that. Like, it just feels like more Black Flag, and that feels like that's what they're started with. Hopefully, though, when the full game comes out, they have a better tutorial, because I just got thrown in here. As you can see, this is my recording. They don't tell you what buttons do what. I just kind of figured out on my own. Mind you, I think in this part, your ship is indestructible. I've taken a lot of damage, and I didn't really receive any damage. So this is like just learn how to play the game, get used to the controls, and they don't really tell you what the controls are, which is annoying, but I mean, if you played Assassin's Creed Black Flag, you'll probably know the gist of it. If you played any first-person shooters, hold L2 to aim and press R2 to fire. That mostly works, but in terms of changing your speed and all that stuff, that's a little bit more tricky if you haven't played Black Flag. During the actual, after this opening sequence, when you start in the other boat, there's pop-ups that tell you how to do stuff, and that I found was also not the greatest, because I was not really looking at what the writing said when I was trying to figure out where I'm going and what's happening, that I don't crash into something. I just really hope they get a better tutorial by the time the full game comes out. I mean, this is the beta, so we can't expect perfection, but it's a very good telling of generally what you're going to get. Once you get in the game, I don't think this will matter, but for first-time players, I think it might matter. Like, I know in this scene right here, you can see that little dotted line. I know from playing Black Flag that if I go behind the line, like to the left of the line, I shoot the rear cannons. If I'm in front of the line, I shoot the side cannons. And if I look forward, there's another line, I shoot the front cannons. So there's different weapons on different parts of the ship. They don't tell you that. I just know that because of my previous experience. A new player would be like, what is that? And I'm sure they explain it, but in the beta, they kind of just let you go in blind. The cinematics are pretty decent, and it's in game. You can tell that part up there on the crow's nest where the guy's like, it's the British captain. And yeah, I like how the camera pulls out, and it's very cinematic, and this shot looks very pretty as well, which is nice to see. It's well done. And the other good part that I found is every character that I had to interact with in my beta, like these two on the ship, they're voiced. They tell you stuff. It's full voice acting. There's a guy you talk to on an island. He's also got full voice acting. It might not be the greatest voice acting, Though I wish with this voice acting they would like tell you how to control your ship, especially in this opening scene, because you're kind of given the controls after they talk to you and they're like, here's a map, go and do this and that. You take the rudder, I'll do the sails, or the till and I'll do the sails. Either way, you're in control of the boat. And from this video, you'll see that I am struggling. Like, I'm not too sure even how to move my boat. I'm just pushing buttons to see what happens. And that was not a great experience. I got over it pretty quick. But it was like that first ship combat, you're kind of already going and they kind of get you started. And here I am just like, what do these buttons do? What am I looking at? But it was nice to see other players in the game. So it is not just an empty game. Like, there's people around. I don't know how to interact with them. I never got close enough, I don't think. If there were people on the island, I didn't know how to interact with them either. So never got to do that. However, everything I saw in this game was very pretty. Like, the graphics wise, I enjoyed looking at everything. And near the end of my playtime, it looked like there was a storm brewing, like, in the distance. Unfortunately, I didn't get to sail into it or towards it. I just ran out of time, unfortunately. And I would have loved to seen that. This part right here where I'm just hailing and I'm collecting stuff, it's weird because sometimes I'll ride over stuff and it'll collect it, and sometimes I have to hit triangle. And I don't understand why, and I'm sure they'll explain that more. But in a game like this, I'm sure it's great to have as much stuff as possible. I don't know if there's a limit to how much you can hold, but again, I think we're going to have to find out from the full game if that's the case. The one thing that I kind of wasn't too sure about was how they handle going off the ship, and right here we will see how they do that. And as you saw, you hold a button and it just teleports you. There is no animation, there is no little cutscene about you like putting your boat up to the shore and getting off. It's just black screen and you're off on the island. This is a small area, and I mean, I don't know if there was any other players here, but it was kind of disappointing that that was exactly how they chose to do it. And it kind of shows that they started out with a naval combat game and they're like, oh no, we need to add to it. Games like Sea of Thieves are there, and I'm sure that made them want to expand the scope, which probably didn't help with all the development time. I mean, this game has been in the works for years and years and years. It's been delayed multiple times, and I guess this is the best they could have done. They just ran out of time and out of money, probably. They just needed to get something out the door, and these are the corners they cut. I wouldn't say it's the worst cuts in the world. I mean, it's actually, if you're playing this game for hundreds of hours, it might actually be a time saver for you. You might actually want to skip all those little scenes about how you get on and off the island or on and off ships. But I mean, it kind of feels unfinished, but at the same time, being a multi-100-hour game that it's meant to be a live service game, you probably would appreciate that. It's just not going to let you waste time watching the same cutscenes over and over. You're here and now you're there and you can get on with the game. The load times are super quick, so I can't complain about it. It's not like there's a loading screen. It's just, it's not animated like I would expect from something that looks this pretty. There's another upside to this teleporting though. When you are exploring, like in one of the little scenes, I had to explore a little wreckage and get an item that was required to keep going. Once I got the item, I just hit the button with the anchor on it, which I think was circle, and it just teleported me to my ship. I didn't have to run all the way back, which again, huge time saver. But on the same ship, they had cannons you can fire. And I'm like, okay, so I pushed the, I think, triangle to interact with it. And it just did a black screen and I was at the cannon. And then when I got off the cannon, same thing, black screen and back at, like, outside the cannons. It's kind of disappointing that for that, you're in the environment and you're just using something in the environment. They didn't choose to animate that. That's just, that kind of hurt to see. Well, I did enjoy my little bit of playtime with this game. I don't think this is something I would pick up at full price, which is, I think, 70 US or 89 Canadian, because in Canada, everything's way more expensive because our dollar's not as good. But for basically full price, I couldn't see myself playing this game. I don't think it's something that I would enjoy as much for that full price. It is enjoyable. It is fun if you like the ship combat, at least from what I played, but I can't see it being something that's not going to go on sale very fast. Plus, it is Ubisoft, and Ubisoft games, give it a month or two, they'll be 20, 30% off. Wait 4 or 5 months, 40, 50% off. Wait for a holiday sale, maybe 60, 75% off. It's Ubisoft. They want people to buy their games. I don't think they really care for how much. And a game like this, you need a user base. And to have a user base, you need to get copies out there. Even with crossplay, this is going to be a hard sell, I think. If you're not in on the ground floor and the player base dies and you jump in several months after this releases, you might have a bad time if the player and player interaction is very important. So far from what I've seen, you can do a lot of stuff single player. Like I saw a couple of people, but I didn't have to interact with them. But I'm sure later on there'll be big sea battles where it's like a raid where you want to have a bunch of your friends or other people to take on a big like bad guy ship. And if there's no one playing, this game is going to have literally die in the water. Now, the head of Ubisoft there said this is a quadruple A game, which is 4 A's. I don't think this is a triple A game, to be honest. From what I've played, this is somewhere between a double A and a triple A. It's just on the verge of triple A. Those missing animations, just little things like that, really detract. Like, I understand getting on and off the ship, no animation, but the fact that I went to use a cannon in the environment and I just teleported, if there was another player with me that did the same thing, it would just look awkward. I think this is triple A at best, quadruple A, no way. The game does a lot of things that are very fun, but again, if you want a full experience and you want something that is more story driven than this seems to be, then you probably could just get Black Flag and have a very similar experience. Not as pretty, but definitely the same feel of the game. And that's not a bad thing. Like, this is maybe a step forward. We'll see what the final game is gonna turn out to be. But from what I've played, it's just not gonna be as good as I think Black Flag was. Black Flag was a very special game to a lot of people. They loved the combat. They loved the fishing and everything about it, and exploring and the diving bell and all that stuff. Like, you got to see so much. I don't know how much is going to be in this game. Is it just going to focus on the ship combat? Because like the on-land stuff I did was all right, but like I didn't see a way to take out a weapon. I didn't see a way to fight anything on land, which I mean is a big part of being a pirate. You're not just on the ship all the time. Sometimes you go into port, you go into a city. I mean, we've all watched Pirates of the Caribbean. I mean, Jack Sparrow didn't spend all his time on the boat. He spent a lot of time on his boat, but he spent a lot of time off the boat too. And I'm sure in this game, you're going to have to spend some time off the boat, like here getting the missions and returning stuff in. And even here, you can see what I was talking about. There's that storm brewing that I was saying I saw near the end of my playtime. And it wasn't it's something I want to check out, but I don't know if it's just from a cutscene or if it's just dynamic weather. Like, there's a lot of unknowns in this game. I hope it turns out well, because it was fun from what I played. I wish the beta went a little bit later. Like, I finished at midnight. I would have had another 2 to 3 hours into it and had much more to say. But from what I played, I don't see it changing too much. There might be hand-to-hand combat later on, but it's hard to say. From my impressions, this game should be fun. If you like Black Flag, you'll probably have a good time. But again, it all depends where the game goes from this opening section. How big is the map gonna be overall? Because like you open the map here, and it is quite limited. You got the couple islands, you got the couple shipwrecks, nothing special. I tried putting down like a waypoint. I couldn't figure out how to do that. There's just a lot in this beta that I think will be ironed out by the time the full game comes out, because I'm sure they cut a lot of stuff out of here just to save space and get it out and let everybody play it. If this video was very interesting to you, then this is a game you should pick up. If what you're seeing here you kind of like, maybe wait for a sale. If you're kind of more curious about this and you don't really want to spend the money on this game when it first comes out, why don't you just pick up Black Flag, play a little bit of that. I'm sure you can get it in the bargain bin for like $5 to $10 now. It's been on sale many times. It's probably part of the Ubisoft Plus collection as well, so you can probably play it multiple ways on multiple systems. If you made it this far in the video, I really do appreciate your time. I know this has been a little bit lengthy. Please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you again on my channel. Leave a comment about anything you want me to look at or any suggestions how to improve my videos. Anyways, everyone, have a great day.